Hello and welcome to the second part of variable and identifier lecture. In this video, we are going to talk about certain facts which we haven't discussed in the previous lecture, and we will also talk about print and input function in this video. First, we will discuss the difference between strongly typed and dynamically typed values. Basically, in other programming languages, the variables which we create are strongly typed. What do we mean by strongly typed? And in Python, the variables which we create are dynamically typed. So what do we mean by dynamically typed? In this video, we are going to talk about these two topics first. Let's take an example of a variable in Python. Say you have created a variable a and you have assigned a value 10 to it. Okay. Now, if on the same variable a, I am going to assign a second value which is a text a, b, c. So what will happen? Nothing will happen. A will happily accept the second value. And before assigning ABC to this a variable, if I print the value of a, what we will get? We will get 10, because initially we assigned 10 to the, in this statement we are going to get 10 as the result. And after assigning ABC, if I print the same variable, what I will get? I will get ABC, because now I have assigned ABC to this variable a. So the result will be ABC. Now if I talk about this feature of a variable in Python, which says that whenever you assign a value to the variable, the data type of the variable is changed according to the value. If when you have assigned the value 10 to a, if you check the type of this variable a by using the type function, I have discussed about type function in the previous video, you can go and check. If I use the type function and try to print the type of a, what we are going to get? We are going to get int. Int stands for integer. Okay. So we are going to get int as the result, because int stands for integer, and at that time the value of a was 10. Now after this statement, when I have assigned the value abc text to this same variable, and again if I check the value, check the type of the variable a, the answer will be str. str stands for string, because now the value which is contained by the variable a is a text. So this is what known as dynamic typing. Dynamic typing means as soon as you change the value of the variable, the data type of the variable also changes. But do you know, in other languages like C, C++, and one of the most known language known as Java, in these languages the variables are strongly typed. Now what do you mean by strongly typed? In those languages, when we create a variable, we need to start with the data type, like int a is equal to 10. Okay. And once you have created a variable or declared a variable with a specific data type, further in the program we cannot change the data type of that variable. If you even try to do so, it will complain. This won't be accepted in other languages like C, C++, and Java, and that is known as strongly typed language. Whereas in Python, we can anytime change the data type of the variable by assigning a value of different type. Now we'll talk about the allocation of the memory when a variable is created. Say this is the entire memory of your computer, and if we create a variable a with value 50, when we'll create a variable with value 50, a memory will be allocated for the variable and the value will be stored in that, and a will start pointing that allocated memory. But when in the same program I change the value of that variable to something else, say ABC, so instead of modifying the value, the variable a will allocate a new memory and will assign the value or new value to that location and will start pointing that location, and will stop pointing the previous location which was allocated for it. If you again change the value of the variable to something else, say 100, again it will stop pointing the previous one and will allocate a new memory, store the new value to it, and will start pointing to it. To prove this, we do have a function known as id. The id function does nothing but display the address of the memory which has been allocated for the variable. If you print this after every allocation, you will find that every time a different address will be displayed. So this proves that whenever we assign a new value to a variable, instead of modifying the value at the location, it allocates a new memory, assign the new value to that location and start pointing this. So in these three cases, whenever we have assigned a value, the address of the variable will keep on changing, and we will prove this through a program. Now we'll talk about a concept known as mutable and immutable in Python. Now let's talk about mutable. What is mutable? If I create a variable a and the value of the variable is 10, the value will be allocated somewhere in the memory, and this a will start pointing this a. And if we change the value of the variable, say 20, so instead of allocating a new memory location for this 20, if the variable erases the previous content of the same location and changes or updates the same location, this property is known as mutable. So those value or those variable which implement this concept of modifying the value at the same location instead of allocating a new memory location are known as mutable, whereas immutable are those which when allocated and assigned to a value, they will allocate a memory for that value and will start pointing that location, and whenever the value of that variable is changed, it will allocate a new memory for the new value instead of modifying the previous, and will stop referring the previous one and will start pointing the new one. And this concept is known as immutable variable. Now the question is, which of the types are mutable and which of the types are immutable in Python? All the primitive ones are immutable, and there are non-primitive data types in the Python which we are going to discuss in the later lectures. Those data types are mutable in nature. Under immutable comes all the primitive data type like int, float, boolean, string, and even a non-primitive data type known as tuple, which we are going to cover in the later lecture, also comes under immutable concept. So all these primitives are immutable in nature. Now we are aware what is immutable nature. Whenever their value is modified, instead of modifying the value, they allocate a new memory and start pointing the new location. Mutables. Under the mutables comes list and dictionary. These non-primitive data types will also be covered in later lectures. Separate lecture has been made for all these non-primitive data types, out of which few are immutable and some are mutable. One more non-primitive data type is there known as set. Set is also immutable in nature. We are going to have a separate lecture for all these non-primitive data types like tuple, set, list and dictionary. Now let's take some practical example. But before that, I would like to introduce you to PyCharm. Now we are going to do all our practicals on this PyCharm. Now how to install PyCharm? To install PyCharm, open the browser, write PyCharm and press enter. Click on the link. This window will be displayed. Click on download, and here is the download link. Click here and download it. You can check the operating system and the type of operating system. Once the PyCharm is downloaded, install the PyCharm. When the PyCharm will open before you, a window something like this will open before you. What you have to do is, you have to create a new project. Just click on new project from here, and it will suggest you a location. Like in my case, it's suggesting C user del PyCharm project. This is a pre-created folder. I can change the location by clicking on this and select a new location, but I will go with the same location. We can change the name of the project which has been suggested by PyCharm. I have taken the name as first project. Now click enter. It says that create from existing source. I am selecting create from existing source. There is already a file there. No problem. I will delete that file. Now I will create a new file. Right click on the project name, new. Select the type of the file which you want to open. All types of files are displayed. I will select the Python file. Name the file. No need to mention the extension .py because already we have mentioned that it's a Python file. Just type the name and press enter key, and the file will be opened before you. You can remove this project layout by clicking on this so that the screen is displayed. Here we can see all the examples. Till now we have discussed about dynamically typed and strongly typed. We have also discussed that when a variable is allocated in the memory, every time when the program stops executing, that memory is deallocated, and whenever we execute the program, a fresh memory will be allocated, and that can be proved by ID function. Let's take an example. As I have told you, ID function is there to display the address of the allocated memory. So in this program, I have created a variable with a value 10, and then I am printing the ID of this variable A. This program will prove that whenever the program stop executing and when we re-execute the program, a fresh memory is allocated for the variable. So if I'll execute this program for multiple times, you will say that the ID or the memory location allocated for A will be different. Let's execute it. For executing, click on these lines, click on run. You can select this run also. Just click on the program. Say the first time when the program is executing, the memory which is allocated for the variable is something this. Now if I again execute the program, see this time the memory which has been allocated is something else. If you want to check this, let's copy this and paste this in the program in form of comment. I'll talk about comment if I haven't talked earlier in the later lecture. So if I re-execute this program, now check the memory location. Again I'm copying this and again I'm pasting this. Let's re-execute. Now you can see that 3 times I have executed the program and 3 times the memory allocated for the variables are different. So this program proves that whenever the program is executed, a fresh memory is allocated for the variable. Whenever the value of the variable is changed, the location of the variable is changed onto a newly allocated memory. Instead of modifying the value of the pre-located location, it changes to a new location. Let's prove it. Now I'll change the value of this variable to something, say ABC, and now I'll print the address of the variable again. Now let's execute this program. When you execute the program, you will find that when the integer was allocated, the address was something this, and when the value was changed, the address changed into this. Let's do it one more time. Now I am assigning 1000 to the variable A and printing the address again. Let's re-execute the program. Now you can see all the 3 times, firstly the address was something this, next time it was this, and third value was allocated on this. So this proves that whenever you change the value of a variable, instead of modifying the location, it allocates a new memory and assigns the new value to the new location. The mutable and immutable concept, as we have discussed, I will show the practical of mutable and immutable in later lessons when we will be discussing those mutable non-primitive data types. For time being, you have to only know what you mean by mutable and immutable. Now we are going to talk about print and input function. So let's move on to the last section of this video. In this section, we are going to discuss 2 very important built-in functions, print and input. These 2 functions are used in almost all the program of the Python. So let's first comment this section, all the code which we have done earlier, and let's start with. So let's first take some example of print statement. For that, let's create some variables. So here in this example, we have taken 3 variables: A is equal to 10, B is equal to 17.5, and C is equal to a text ABCB at random text. And now we are writing 3 different print functions in order to display the value of A, B, and C. So let's check the output. Let's run the program. So the outputs are 10, 17.5 and ABCB as expected. As we have simply in this program, we have displayed the value of the 3 variables which we have declared in this program. So ABC corresponding their value 10, 17.5, ABCB has displayed. Now look on to the second example. Here, why to use separate print statement for every variable? Can't we print all the variable into a single print? Yes. So let's try to display all the 3 variables in a single print statement. What I want you to focus upon is when I displayed all the 3 variables in a single print statement separated by comma, you can check that all the 3 values has been displayed, but there is a space in between each value. So what is the reason of this space? I haven't given any space in between the variables like A comma without space B comma without space C, but still there is a space between all the 3 values. The reason is whenever we display multiple variable in a print function, the comma separator is replaced by a single space. It is by default the separator of the print statement is a single space. Now if you want, you can change this default separator from space to something else. How can we do that? Write the same print statement again. Let's write the print statement again, and we have to just give one more additional information. As by default the separator will always be a space. If you want to change this, let's first run this without changing the separator. If you run this program again without changing the separator, you will find that again the output is same. Output is same means in both the cases, when I haven't given the separator and when I am giving the separator, in both the cases between every variable there is a single space. Now let's have one more print statement in the same program, and this time we will try to give something else as a separator other than space. So let this time we try hash symbol as the separator. Let me try this hash symbol and let's see what is the output. So if you run the program again, let's run the program. Okay, now please check the output. In the first two output where the separator, first no out separator has been specified, as I told that by default the separator will be a space. In second case we have given the same default separator, that is the space. That is why in first two output there is a space in between. But in the third example we have changed the separator from space to hash, and now you can check wherever there is a comma is a separator between the variable. So wherever there was a comma, that comma or separator has been replaced by hash symbol. So, and this separator, when we apply certain separator to the print statement, that is only applicable to that particular print statement. If I further print the values again and if I run the program again, you can check the separator will again be space. Check this. So the separator, if we change from space to something else, that is only effective for that particular statement. Now have you noticed this? We have given 4 different print statements, and every print statement is getting displayed onto a new line. Say first print statement is being displayed here, and automatically the line changes, and the second print statement output is being given to the next line. Similarly, in the third statement where we have used hash as the separator, again it changes the line and moves on to the new line, and again the last print statement is getting displayed onto the new line. So why is every print statement getting displayed onto a new line? Or the question is, if we need to prevent 2 print statements from getting printed into 2 different lines, I want them to be displayed on the same line. How can we do this? Actually the answer is, by default the ending of a print statement is always done by a line break. This is the default behavior of a print statement. So as separator there is also an end argument. By default the end argument always ends with a line break, and we have discussed this /n in the previous video. If you check the previous video, I have discussed about this. This is a special character known as escape sequence, and I will give detailed information about escape sequences in a separate video. For time being, this /n is a special string literal which represent line break. So this is the default behavior of the print statement. So after printing the first line, even if we remove this end argument from the print statement, the things are going to be on the next line, means this next print statement is going to be on the next line. So let the first 2 print statement be in their default behavior. Let the first output come, and then line should change, and then again the next output should come on a new line, then again line should change. But I don't want after this print statement this should not go into a new line. How can I prevent it? I can prevent it by changing the default behavior of the end. So by default the end goes to a new line. Instead of that, I am putting any symbol. I can use anything as the end. So this, what will be happening in this case? The first two print statement are doing their default ending. They are going to change their line after printing the first three variable. The line is going to change. Second print statement will do the same thing. So next second print statement will also display the content and will change the line because it is also having the default end behavior. But in the third print statement, we have changed the end into something else. Instead of line break, now this is going to print this symbol, double dash double hyphen followed by a closing angle bracket, which is looking like an arrow. And this time after printing these three variable, this arrow will be printed, and instead of changing the line, this print statement will also display the output onto the same line. Let's run the program. So if I run the program, check, look, first two print statement has changed their lines, but third and the fourth one are being on the same line. This is because in the third print statement, instead of line break, we have changed the end behavior into something else. That is, at the end, don't change the line and display this character. So that it has done, it has displayed the content, and after displaying the content, it has displayed this symbol as the end, and the last print statement is getting displayed on the same line. So now we are aware of what is the separator and what is the end. Now let's take one more example. Let's comment them. So let's take an example. Say first number is equal to 10, second number is equal to 20, sum is equal to first number and second number, and then print first number, second number, and third number, and sum. So this is a simple program where what we are doing is we are taking two variables, first num and second num, assigning values 10 and 20 to them, and then I am adding these two numbers and assigning the sum onto the third variable sum, and then I am displaying all these three variables, first num, second num, and third num. Let's run this program. So answer is as obvious, 10, 20, and 30, because first number has been displayed at the first place, so the value is 10. The second number has been displayed at the second position, so 20, and the sum of 10 and 20 is 30, which is at the third position. But obvious, this answer is correct, but if you look onto the output doesn't make much appeal because there is no explanatory text along with the output. Means it's a plain output 10, 20, 30. If a user look onto this output, it doesn't tell anything to the user that what is the meaning of this 10 and what is the meaning of this 20 and what is the meaning of this 30. Instead of that, if I make this print statement little more explanatory, that is, I want to display the variable, but along the variable I need to add some text along with them, like the sum of 10 and 20 is equal to 30. That will show the result that this 10, 20, and 30 are involved in an addition where 10 and 20 will be added and the result will be 30. So how can we do that? In case if we have to display variables along with some text with them, how can we do that? Print, let's start the sum of, now after of, we want the value to be displayed is first num, and the second, and is a text, and second num is, and after is, if we put a colon, that would be better. Now let's save this program and try to run this again. Now check the output. The output looks better now because it is an explanatory output which says that the sum of 10 and 20 is 30. That's good. That's better than the previous one. So if you observe this print statement, I have to combine all the text and variable together. Wherever I have to insert the variables, we have to end the string and then we have to put a comma, then I have to again write the variable name without quotation mark and then again put a comma, then again as we start with the text we have to use the double quote, then again end. Means we have to very thoughtfully we have to write this statement because there are chances of committing mistake in this. But the same statement could be done in a different way. Let me show. I can write this print statement with a format parameter of with a string. If you put an f before the text, I can write the same statement, the sum of, and now I have to write the first variable, which is first number, into curly bracket. We don't have to close, now we don't have to close the double quotation mark. This curly bracket, and within that curly bracket, that is the variable name, will auto replace by the variable value of that variable, the sum of first number, and now I will put the second number, sorry, there is a mistake, second number is, put a colon, and then I have to put sum. So if you look onto this statement, I don't have to end the text every time, put a comma and all. Only you have to do is f. F means formatting the string, and in this way, wherever you have to place the variable without ending the string, you can just put the variable's name in curly bracket. So at three different places, here and here, we have to put the variable, and we haven't ended the string. We have started the string here and ended only at the last, and in between we have inserted the variable. Let's see whether it gives the same kind of output or not. Let's run the program again. Look, the same kind of output is there. The sum of 10 and 20 is 30. So at the end, I hope that everyone is now comfortable with print statement. So after this, the last topic which is left is input function. So what is the input function? Input function is, if you look on to the example till now, what we have done, whenever we have created a variable, the value to the variable has been directly assigned at the time we created the variable. Means the variables were predefined. There were no example in which we could have decided the value, or in which we have decided the value at the time of execution. If you see this example, A has already been given 10, in B has already been given 17.7, and likewise C has already been given ABCB. So what if we want the variable's value to be decided at the time of execution? So if you want the variable's value to be decided at the time of execution, and if you want the user to decide the value for the variable, we can use the inbuilt function known as input. So let's now take the example of a variable A, in which what we have to do is, we have to simply, instead of directly assigning the value, we will use the built-in input function, and which will help us to assign the value to the variable when we'll execute them. Let's save this program and try to run and check how does input function work. If I run the program, now look, in this case the program is giving no output. Till now it's waiting because we haven't entered the value. So I have entered 10. Now as soon you enter 10, means first input function was executed and the system was waiting for us to give the input. As soon as you give the input, then the control moves on to the next statement, which is the print statement, and whatever value you have given to the variable A, that value is displayed in the second statement. Let's take one more input statement. Let's say input, and now we'll display both the values like this. Key F, the value of, and then I'll put A and B, and then close the string. That is the value of, oh sorry, we haven't done this, and why have we put, so the value of A and B. Now whatever the values we will give to the A and B will be displayed together with this print statement. Let's run the program again. Now again let's input 25 and 589 respectively to A and B. So please check, after you input the values, for first input statement is meant for A, second input statement has been meant for B. So first value 25 will go to A and second value 589 will go to B, and when I display this, the value of A, first I am displaying the value of A, which is 25, and B, which is 589. Now if you have observed that in the following input statement we are just entering the value, but there is no prompt. Why not to display certain prompt to the user, which makes it easier for the user to understand that the system or the program is waiting for the input. So with the input statement, you can even give a proper prompt which will explain the user that what kind of value we are waiting for. Say enter a number, and in the second input enter another number. Okay, and now we save this and rerun the same program, and look, now this time it's displaying the first input statement is executing and saying enter a number. So I will write 205. Then it is executing the second input statement. Here I'm writing 345, and then when I print enter, then it is finally executing the print statement which says that the value of A, that is 205, and B, that is 345. Okay, now let's take one more example. If we are inputting two numbers, let's add them and display the sum of those numbers. Sum is equal to A plus B. Okay, and now in the print statement at the end, I am going to display something like this. The sum of A and B is sum. Okay, and let's save this and let's run the program. So let's enter some simple number 10, 20. Oh, what is the output? Can you see the output? The sum of 10 and 20 is 1020. Why the answer is instead of 30 it is coming 1020? The previous video we were discussing literal, and in that case I gave an example where I told you that when we add or try to add two text, instead of adding them, the plus operator joins them. So this proves that whenever you input anything through the input function, although you are entering a number, still they are not number, they are text. And that is why when you added A and B, instead of 30, when we entered 10 and 20, instead of 30 it gave 1020, because these two A and B were not integer but text. And if we have to prove that, I can print their types. If you print the type of A and then if I print the type of B, save the example and then run again, you will find that the type of say 10 and 20, check, the type of both these variables which we have entered is nothing but str. That means you are not entering number, although you are entering digit, but they are not treated as number. That is the default behavior of the input function. And here comes the role of conversion functions. There are few conversion functions in Python which help us to convert any of the string into other data type, like int function which converts a text into integer. There is a float function which converts a text into float if the value is compatible. If you will try to convert a text which is not containing digit into integer or float, that will definitely going to give an error message. And similarly bool, it is going to convert, if the text is containing a boolean literal, it will convert that text into boolean type. Now let's comment this statement and let's try to apply this conversion function. Whatever is given by the input function, if I enclose this entire input function into the int conversion function, so what will happen when the user will enter the value which will be initially a text, this int function will first convert that into an integer and that will assign it to A. And same way, if I enclose this also, again the value given by the user will be converted into integer and then will be assigned to B. Now we will display their types also, and we will even again try to add them and try to display the sum. Let's save this and again try to run the program. Say run. Say first number this time is 50 and second number is 30. So the sum should be 80, and there this time their data type should be int. Please check. This time the data type, because we are using conversion function, so the data type of first is also an integer and second is also an integer, and the output is also coming correct. The sum of 50 and 30 is 80. I hope this is clear to you all. If you want, we can take one more example where we are using some float number. Say instead of int, this time we are going to use some decimal number. So instead of int, I am going to use float as the conversion function, and let's add them and let's save it and run the program again. See, when you run the program this time I'm going to pass some 12.5 a floating number and 13.7 again a floating number. Please check, 12.5 and 13.7 is 26.2, and if you check their data types are float. I hope this example is clear to all. That's all in this video. Please do watch the video and please do provide your valuable comment in the comment section. You can even ask your doubt in the comment section, and if you want to give certain advice to me, please do give your advices in the comment section. Thank you once again.